Welcome to another episode on Based on the Numbers. This time for week 5, we're going over all of the fantasy football positions: the quarterback, the running back, the wide receivers, and the tight end. I'm going to go over which are the bottom 5 defenses per position. So let's just say for quarterback, we're going to find the 5 worst defense who are giving up the most points for quarterbacks and label them in the top 5 for this any given week, as long as they are playing. Doesn't matter if they're all pros, doesn't matter if they're sleepers. I'm just going to give you, based on the numbers, the top 5 players in every position for this week. Without further ado, let's hop into the video. All right, let's start here with the quarterback position here. The top 5 players that we see here, the worst defense who's giving up the most points to opposing quarterbacks that's playing this week is the Denver Broncos, and the quarterback that gets to go up to the Broncos is Zach Wilson. Now, I am by in no means saying that you should start Zach Wilson this week. This is simply just based on the numbers. Zach Wilson has the best matchup for quarterbacks this week. He is a terrible NFL quarterback, and he's a terrible fantasy quarterback. I would not recommend him, even though he's going against this Denver Broncos defense that just likes to puke out points for opposing players. I would say do not start Zach Wilson. There is so many more options you can have. Just based on the numbers, he is the best quarterback this week, but I'm just shooting right along. The next the player right here we're going to talk about is Matthew Stafford, going against the second worst defense as far as opposing quarterbacks go, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Matthew Stafford, I like it. He could have Cooper Kupp back this week. Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell is doing very, very well for him. Even Tyler Higbee, he's got a lot of weapons. If you add Cooper Kupp to that, it could be even more potent for this offense, and he's going to need it going against this Philadelphia Eagles defense. They have a high-powered offense as well. They are undefeated, one of the few undefeated teams that's left in the NFL, and they're going to have to be putting up some points if they want any type of hope against the Eagles. Matthew Stafford could be a phenomenal play. Easily 300 yards passing, I could see, especially if Cooper Kupp does play. I mean, how do people even guard Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua? It's exciting time for football right now. I'm going to be excited to watch this offense and how they can work. But Matthew Stafford has the second best matchup for quarterbacks in week 5. The next best matchup is going to be talking about Daniel Jones going against the Miami Dolphins, which is giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks this week. What can you say about Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones has the ability of throwing 300 yards, and he has the weapon in Darren Waller. Saquon Barkley currently is probably not going to play. There is a chance Saquon Barkley could play, but we don't know as of right now. Of the recording of this video, he hasn't been ruled in. And Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson, Sterling Shepard, what does he really have out there? I mean, I don't know. Is it really Daniel Jones' fault that he can't put up the numbers he's putting up? I mean, he gives you a nice little floor because of his rushing ability, but you just don't know what you get from Daniel Jones. But if you are in a pinch and your quarterback is either on bye or he is injured for some odd reason, going against Miami, he's going to have to put up a lot of points to keep up with Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, Devin Achane, a lot of players out there. Daniel Jones is going to have to sling the ball everywhere. So we're going to see how he goes. There shouldn't be much of a running game, especially if Saquon Barkley does not play. Daniel Jones could be a sneaky little play this week. I do like Daniel Jones. Please don't scorch me in the comments too much, okay? Daniel Jones, we know what he is. He's either going to be a really great quarterback this week or he's going to just poop the bed. One of the two is going to happen. There is no middle ground. Now, the 4th best quarterback this week, we're talking about Jordan Love going against the Raiders. Now, they're giving up the 4th most points to opposing quarterbacks that's actually playing this week. Oh, Jordan Love's another one of those guys. He is improving, though, and I do like Christian Watson's coming back, Romeo Dubes, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave. He's got some weapons out there. And just Jordan Love is really putting up like 150, 200 yards passing. We really haven't seen that 300-yard potential from Jordan Love, but like I said, he is improving, so you never know. And going against the Raiders, he has the 4th best matchup for quarterbacks this week. You can do a lot worse than Jordan Love. I don't think Jordan Love will beat you this week, and I don't think he's going to win you this week, but I don't think that he's necessarily going to beat you this week either. So the last quarterback on this list here we're going to talk about is Ryan Tannehill going against the Indianapolis Colts here. Colts give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks that's actually playing and not on a bye week this week. So Ryan Tannehill, I am by no means telling you to start this guy. This is, again, just based off of the numbers. And even if you're looking at the top 5, the ones that I would suggest you start would be Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love, Zach Wilson, and Ryan Tannehill. Even though those are 2 quarterbacks out of the top 5 best matchups this week, I would not start those 2. Just stick with Matthew Stafford, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love. Ryan Tannehill on the flip side of it, it's really Derrick Henry's show. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, he gets a little bit of work, but he's not going to carry Ryan Tannehill to a solid fantasy outing. You know, whether it's Treylon Burks or Nick Westbrook, Ekine, these guys aren't putting up phenomenal numbers that's going to be doing anything for Ryan Tannehill to make him a fantasy start for you. So I would just stay away from Ryan Tannehill this week. Let's move over to the running back position here. We'll talk about the top 5 here. The running back with the best matchup this week would be Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon taking on those Arizona Cardinals, who's given up the most fantasy points to opposing running backs as far as this week goes. Now, Joe Mixon, he's playing for an offense that's just completely sputtered right now. I mean, Joe Burrow's not getting anything going. The offense could be a little bit hurt without T. Higgins in there if he does miss time with his rib injury. Joe Mixon is kind of the mainstay. There's no running back behind him. I do like Joe Mixon this week. I think he's going to have a hefty workload. Like I said, especially if T. Higgins is hurt, they're probably going to try to establish the run game, and that could be a major beneficiary for Joe Mixon. Get him in the lineup against the Cardinals. I do like this matchup. The next running back who has the best matchup would be David Montgomery going against the Carolina Panthers. They're giving up the second most points to opposing running backs as far as the teams that are actually playing in week 5. David Montgomery has completely taken over the Jahmyr Gibbs roles. I mean, just last week, look at it. I mean, he had 32 carries according to Jahmyr Gibbs' 8. So it's just Montgomery is an absolute bell cow. He's a stud. They give him the ball. They give him the ball at the goal line. They give it to him on first, second, and third down. He's all down. You know, Jahmyr Gibbs gets his little bit of love here or there, but other than that, it is the David Montgomery show. I definitely am a big advocate of getting him in your lineup. I don't think that you will regret playing Montgomery. He is definitely a start for me in week 5. The third best matchup, we're talking about Josh Jacobs going against the Green Bay Packers. Packers give up the third most points to opposing running backs for the teams that are playing right now. Josh Jacobs hasn't obviously had the season that he had last season, but he's still a good running back. Somebody going against the Green Bay Packers could be an even matchup. We're not sure if the rookie O'Connell will play or if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play, but either way it goes, Josh Jacobs should have a good opportunity to run the ball against this Packers defense, and he could find much success. So, talking about the Ravens here, I'm going to say Gus Edwards. I mean, we all know it's pretty much a crapshoot for the running back position when it comes to the Ravens, but I would definitely say Gus Edwards would be my pick here. I mean, we could be saying Melvin Gordon as well, but it's just we have to see what's going on. They're taking up a Pittsburgh defense ranking, giving up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing running backs, and we have to say I wouldn't start any Ravens running backs at all. I don't like what they have to do. But as of right now, Edwards has cleared the concussion protocol. He expects to play on Sunday. I would put him above any other running back that you have on that list. But we all know Lamar Jackson is the main running back in this situation. So I'm not saying or advocating to start Gus Edwards. I'm just saying he has the 4th best matchup this week. And talk about the running back number 5 is going to be, I put Matt Breida right here going against the Miami defense, giving up the 5th most points to opposing running backs as far as the teams that are playing. This definitely could be Saquon Barkley. As of right now, he has not been ruled in to play. There is a good chance that Saquon Barkley could play this week because he is kind of a freak of nature and he can come back. But if Saquon doesn't play, Matt Breida's here, and I would not suggest starting Matt Breida. But if Saquon Barkley does start, I would definitely advise you to start Saquon Barkley against the Miami Dolphins defense. So, but that goes for the running backs that I want to talk about here. Let's go over the wide receivers here. First wide receiver we're talking about here with the best matchup would be Rashee Rice. They're going to a Minnesota Vikings defense that is giving up the most points to opposing fantasy wide receivers as far as the ones that are playing this week. And Rashee Rice, we see it. You know, he is probably the top wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes in this offense. Obviously, he's way behind Travis Kelce as far as target share goes. But as far as the other wide receivers, whether it's Sky Moore, MVS, Kadarius Toney, or anybody else that's on that offense, Rashee Rice is the man there. He's getting the most. And like I said in the video before, I think I put him on the video you saw yesterday. Rashee Rice, I was really puzzled about how many opportunities he's actually getting with Patrick Mahomes just based on how many drops he had in the preseason. I completely wrote off Rashee Rice. Early on in the preseason, before those games started, I had Rashee Rice as a breakout type of player. Once the preseason happened, he started dropping all these easy passes. I completely dropped him and put him in the poop hole because I don't know, I wasn't seeing anything that would make him have the opportunities, but look, lo and behold, he's having the opportunities, and he has the best matchup among wide receivers this week. Get him in your lineup. The next guy I'm talking about here is Zay Flowers, going against that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, giving up the second most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers as far as the teams that are playing this week. Zay Flowers, he could be a nice little dart throw for you. It only takes one little dart to the house here, and Zay Jones can take it all the way into the end zone. He could be a good play here. We have to wait and see if Odell Beckham will play this week or not. Either way it goes, Zay Flowers should be your pick for the Ravens. Now, third here, I'm going to say Puka Nacua taking on this Philadelphia Eagles, who's giving up the third most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Even if Cooper Kupp does play this week, it's as of the recording of this video, he has not been ruled in or out. But even if Cooper Kupp plays, I still like Puka Nacua over Cooper Kupp. We don't know with the hamstring injury. Is Cooper Kupp going to be on a snap count at all? Is he going to be restricted at all? We don't know, but we do know Puka Nacua has a nice rapport he has built with Matthew Stafford, and he is the guy I'd be going after over Cooper Kupp this week. Talking about who has the fourth best matchup, we're talking about Garrett Wilson here, going against that Denver Broncos defense, who are absolutely just putrid. But I would advocate, please put Garrett Wilson in your lineup. The dude, one week he gets, a couple targets, and then last week he gets targeted out of the wazoo. So I'm hoping they keep the targets up with Garrett Wilson. He is obviously the best player on this offense. They need to get him the ball early and often. And against a defense who can't stop anything, I think Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal play this week. Talking about the fifth best wide receiver this week, we're going over DeAndre Hopkins, taking against that Colts defense, giving up the fifth most points to opposing fantasy wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins, again, he's not in a situation where he used to be, whether with the Texans or the Cardinals. He's got Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball, and it's not to the point where he has like an AJ Brown out there anymore. It's just he can't produce solid fantasy numbers with Ryan Tannehill for some reason. I don't know if it's just they're not linking up together, or if Ryan Tannehill is kind of just done. He has nothing left in the tank to give. Then again, if I'm looking at this list, all five of these guys, I would definitely advocate the starting. I think all five have solid games this week. Last but not least, let's go over the tight end position. The player who has the best tight end matchup here would be Adam Troutman, taking on the New York Jets defense, who is giving the most points to opposing fantasy tight ends for the ones who are actually playing this week. Adam Troutman, I am by no means saying to start this guy. You'll be lucky if he gets one target, but he is the top option for the Denver Broncos, so I had to put him here on the list. I can't wait till Greg Dulcich comes back, and at least they have some type of viable option for receiving. So Adam Troutman, just somebody I had to put it here because based on the numbers, he has the best matchup. The next tight end here I'm talking about here is Tyler Higbee, going against that Philadelphia Eagles defense, getting up the second most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. I do like Tyler Higbee quite a bit this week. With Matthew Stafford and company coming into town, they're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. They have to keep up with the Philadelphia Eagles, so they're going to have to throw the football. Tyler Higbee could be a huge benefactor this week. Going into the next play here, Tyler Conklin coming at number 3, going against that Denver Broncos defense. Pretty much anyone who plays these Denver Broncos are going to be on this list. They're going to the third most fantasy points to opposing tight ends as far as the teams that are playing this week. Tyler Conklin, he could be a good little solid play for you. He could make something happen. He could give you a big goose egg. Who knows? I just had to put him on the list because I'm going based off the numbers. Fourth best tight end here. Let's talk about Zach Ertz. Somebody I like. He's an absolute target monster right now, giving the second most targets amongst tight ends so far this season, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals defense, giving up the fourth most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. The offense in whole is just not good. Let's just be honest and call a spade a spade. The Cardinals suck, okay? But the one thing you can do for fantasy points, it doesn't matter if the team wins or loses. You're looking at opportunities and where you can get some fantasy points, and Zach Ertz has plenty of opportunities. We're talking about double-digit type of targets per game. Get Zach Ertz in your lineup. Phenomenal play. Last but not least, I'm putting Dalton Kincaid on this list, taking on the team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, giving up the fifth most points to opposing fantasy tight ends. You could go Dawson Knox, but he's way more of a touchdown or bust type of player. So Dalton Kincaid, more of the receiving option here at tight end for Josh Allen. I'm doing like what Dalton Kincaid can provide to you for Jacksonville Jaguars. I think it's going to be a nice, good, competitive game, which Dalton Kincaid should have plenty of opportunities to succeed in your lineups. As always, thank you for watching the video as we continue to keep pumping out these videos to help you set the best lineup possible so that way you can dominate each and every week. If you aren't subscribed to this channel yet, do me a favor, hit a subscribe button. It's going to help you out tremendously. Our ultimate goal here is to help you win a championship, and you can do it right here on the Bayou Bingo Fantasy Network. I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.